Welcome to Church of Uganda Family TV, specifically on the Transformed Lives program, coming to you live here at our studios at Church House Building, level 13. My name is Luke Alinaitwe, and I'm sitting in for Dr. Robert and Edrin Mukalazi, who are currently not here, apparently. So today we are blessed to have been joined by the retired bishop of Bunyoro Kitara Diocese, the Right Reverend Kyamanywa, who is best known for transforming the diocese. Every person can account to that. So Bishop Kyamanywa was consecrated in 2002 and retired in 2014 willingly. It was such amazing. Bishop, you're most welcome.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Nice meeting you.
You can greet our dear viewer out there, and of course, we'll start the show.
Our dear viewers, I want to greet you in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ, and I want to welcome you to this show. My name's Bishop Nathan Kyamanywa, retired, now 7 years into retirement. I'm glad to be here, and I look forward to a fruitful and informative interaction.
So thank you so much, Bishop. The basis of this Transformed Lives program is to encourage, to inform people out there who are maybe not fine with life, having ups and downs, that yes, you can go through that situation, but there is always a lifetime where you have to transform and be what you are today. And that is why we bring to you the guests we host here to tell us their stories, and particularly today, I'm with Bishop. So Bishop, tell us about the young person in school, joining school, back in the years.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where does the story begin from?
The story is very long because I'm very old.
Yes.
I'm 67 now. I was born in 1956,
Okay.
October 14th, in the village called Kyamanywa in Buyaga County, in the present day Kagadi district. At that time, it was called Bunyoro Kingdom. No. At that time, it was part of Mubende.
Oh.
Because that part of my country was under the rule of Buganda
Kingdom.
until 1964, when our parents voted in a referendum to bring us back to Bunyoro.
Okay.
So 1956 is when I was born. And I grew up, I was born in a polygamous family,
Yes.
which polygamous family was at that time small, but then being polygamous, I couldn't be baptized when I was an infant.
Okay.
I had to wait until I was 8. So I was baptized in 1964 because my mother was not a wedded wife.
Okay.
So I was baptized in 1964. But before that, I started my schooling in 1962 in a school called Kyabasita Primary School, which is now non-existent because of the changes in the dynamics of society.
Okay.
But I went to school in P1 in 1962. It's a school called Kyabasita Primary School. And during that time, children used to be strictly taken to schools of their own church. So Kyabasita Primary School was a Church of Uganda school.
Okay.
And at that time, it had, the highest class it had was P5. So I attended Kyabasita Primary School up to P5. And then I was forced by circumstances to go to a Roman Catholic school, which was Kichuchura Primary School, where they had the highest as P6. So P6, I did it in a Roman Catholic school. And then after that, in the area, there was no school higher than that. So my father, being the type of father he was, decided to shift, looking for where I could go to P7. And it coincidentally, they were building a Kagadi hospital. So my father wanted health for his family, he wanted education for his family, and he wanted feeding for his family. And in the area where we were, there were so many vermins, and so food was scarce, no education, no health. The nearest dispensary we used to visit was 12 miles away.
Oh.
And so, hearing that they are building a hospital in Kagadi, and in the proximity of Kagadi Hospital, there was a primary school for P7, which was Church of Uganda, and there was fertile land, free land to settle. So my father decided to shift from Bugwara, Kiryanga sub-county to go to Kagadi for our sake. Yeah.
And what is the distance between the schools? Because I'm sure you used to walk some good distance.
My dear, it was very, I used to walk 10 miles per day, 5 going and 5 coming back.
Oh, God.
And I went to school when I was 6. And in those days, children didn't have shoes.
Yeah.
And early in the morning, those small feet of those young children and the stones on the road.
Yeah.
And you can imagine you are running to school and the population is sparsely populated. And so you find a home here, you'll find another one in 2 miles. And in between, the forests and the baboons and the monkeys. And one morning, incidentally, it was, I think, between 6 and 7, I met a herd of buffaloes. And I was small. I had to run back home because I saw these cow-looking animals and I didn't understand them, so I had to run back. So it was distant from home to school. And so I did that for 6 years.
6 years.
6 years from P1
to P6.
Up to P6. So when our father took us to Kagadi area, he got land and he took advantage of the hospital, and the family was growing because he had 2 wives, my mother and another lady. My mother is still alive, and my father is dead, and my stepmother is also dead. So he settled there, and he took me to Butumba Primary School, where P7 was. And I did that, and then at the same, and that was a Church of Uganda Primary School, by the way. Okay. That's what he was looking for. That's what he was looking for. And Butumba Primary School is where I did my PLE. And then, if you want, I can even continue. I did my secondary education at Butumba Secondary School, which was a private secondary school. And owing to the circumstances, the financial circumstances of my parents, my father could not continue with my education. So I dropped out of school at S3. I dropped out of school and went back home.
And what are you doing home?
At home, I didn't stay much at home. I stayed briefly, and then came to Hoima Town. I came to Hoima Town, and I came to be a houseboy. You may not believe that. I'm a school dropout.
Yes.
I've come in Hoima to do houseboy work. And good enough, one of the families where I did my houseboy work is still available.
And how long do you do that?
I did that to get money to take me back to school.
Oh, interesting.
I did that to get money to take me back to school. Yeah. And it worked. During the holidays, I used to come and work. The Magaras, if you have heard the family of currently he's called John Magara. So I was a houseboy to John Magara's father, who was Caesar Magara, the MP then for Bunyoro South, which took even my area and here. So I did that, and I got money, and I went back to school. I used to do that during the holidays. I come and do houseboy work, and then go back to school.
Wasn't there some force of like you're now used to this other life going back to school? Wasn't it some hard decision?
No. I didn't leave school. I dropped out of school, but then I worked, and then I didn't stay very long at home. Yeah, it didn't affect me, and because I desired to study. So when I finished O level, that's when I got saved. 1972. 1972, December 12th, I committed my life to Christ. And when I committed my life to Christ, this was 1972. In 1973, there was a plan of government to shift the Bachiga from Kigezi to Bunyoro in a rotated resettlement scheme. So I went there to work as a porter.
Okay.
I want you to mark that.
Yes.
I worked initially as a houseboy.
As a houseboy.
Now I'm going to work as a porter at that young early age.
Yes.
So while we are there, I did all sorts of things which you can imagine. Slashing, digging, and slashing the bosses' compounds, and these other things that porters do. And that was 1973. 1974, I am going to a church, to my church. Here comes a family from Kigezi settling in our area. And they came and they started worshiping at our church.
Okay.
And that family had a beautiful girl. And as a saved person, I had been praying for a good family life. And because of staying at home, and I am saved, and I have no future, my father at that time advised me. He said, Kyamanywa, I want you to settle. And if you want to settle, get married.
Okay.
At the age of 18.
Advice from
my father at the age of 18.
18, yeah.
And he advised me to get married. And I didn't know how to get married. And I didn't know to whom. So this family coming in our church, and my father advising me to get married came at the same time. And that family which came to settle in our area, and this beautiful girl I met is my present wife.
Oh, wow.
So when I saw her in church, I said, and she was saved, I said, that day I ran home. I had my small house which I had built near my father's house. I knelt and said, God, I think this is the girl whom I think I can get married to. If she's the one, please give her to me. That was my prayer, and I'll never forget that prayer.
Wow.
And then I took action
To approach.
her. But I was shy because I was young, and she was young too. She was actually far younger than me. So what I did, as a porter, I was slashing the compound. But at that place where I was slashing, she was a nursery school teacher.
Okay.
Those primary classes.
Yes.
So, and in that class, she had my sister. So what I did, I said, I will write a letter.
Okay.
So I wrote a letter, gave it to my sister, younger sister. In fact, she's my fourth follower. And I gave her that letter.
To deliver.
And I put it in her dress because she had a belt. I said, don't throw that, don't lose it. And so she went and she gave it to her. And then...
Are you not scared what the response would be?
I was concerned but not scared. I was concerned that she might refuse.
Okay.
And I said, come what may come out. But I will because I did not want to lose her. Because I saw in her, 1, beauty, 2, calmness, 2, commitment to Christ. So I said I did not want to lose her. So I was bold. But bold way. If I was bold, I would have approached her. I was somehow shy. So I wrote a letter. And she read it. And I asked my sister, have you given it to her? She said, I have. So I waited for a reply. I waited almost a month.
A month?
Yes.
No response?
No response. So I gathered my strength one day. During break time, I left my slasher somewhere. I went at the window. And then when she saw me, she came, because we used to go to church together.
Okay.
She came and greeted me. And I asked her, I wrote a letter, I gave it to Faith, and I suppose you have read it. She said, I read it, I will give you a response. And immediately she left. So I stuck there. So I waited for another month, maybe 2. Then later she replied and she said, if it is God's will, I accept.
Had you not felt like giving up?
No.
Okay.
You see, a man, you don't give up easily. You persist. So the process was set in motion, and I told my father. My father was happy. My father approached her father, and then the process was put in place, and the rest is history.
Yeah. Wow.
1974, August 24th, we got married in Kagadi, wedlock. I was 18 and she was 16.
Wow.
So we started our family life. That is how it started.
Amazing. So how big is the family now?
God gave us 4 boys and 2 girls.
Wow.
And they are all grown up. They have their own families. You may want, if at the end of this conversation, you may want to look at their pictures.
Yes,
I will show them to you.
I'll have to.
They are all married. They are all responsible citizens in this country. And they are all parents now.
Wow.
Yeah.
And grandchildren?
Yeah, so far we have 22 grandchildren. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That is really interesting.
Yes.
From you. So, and when does this calling come in? Oh.
Now, that's a very good question. Now, when I got married, my wife, something which I didn't know, my wife had all her life prayed for getting married to a clergyman, to a minister, and she was praying for that. And when she looked at me, she tells me that when she looked at me, she saw a God-fearing young man. Because we went to church together, she saw me reading the lessons in the church. So because of that, and the trace of her desire to get married to a minister, when we got married, she started encouraging me to join church ministry.
Okay.
Something I did not like. And before
But
then...
you had gotten saved.
Yeah, I got saved, but I did not want to serve as a
Okay.
minister. I wanted to be saved, but I did not want to serve church as a minister. So she started encouraging me to join church ministry. And coincidentally, my mother also had the same desire. So they joined hands to convince me to join church ministry. There are other things which were at play, which I may not go into. But finally I said, to please my wife, and she was a Mugole.
Oh.
I did not want to annoy her. So I said, to please my mother and to please my wife, let me go and do the interviews with the intention that I will fail, so that I satisfy them that I have failed.
Yeah.
I have gone and failed. So when I went at Nyaigana Archdeaconry, I did the examination, and when I did it, guess what? I come on top. I come on top as the best performing candidate. But I said, okay, the examination I have passed, there is an interview. I will fail the interview. And that interview was in Hoima.
Okay.
So they called us, they invited us to go to Hoima. I knew I would fail it because I knew I was just O-level, so I would fail. So we came to Hoima here, from Kagadi to Hoima, and at the end of the interview, we were about 20, over 20. They said, the names we read up to 12 have passed. When we read and we reach 12 and you have not heard your name, regard yourself as you have failed and go. So they read the names, and mine was among the 12. In fact, they read mine about the second or third. So at that time, as a believer, I was convinced that God was calling me.
Sure.
So they told us, and it was on Thursday, And they told us Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday report to the college, which was Bishop Balia College in Bukuku, in Fort Portal.
Oh, yeah.
So I went home. I told my wife that I'm going to Fort Portal on Monday. And that happened. And on Monday, I joined the college. And from that day onwards, I was convinced that I was called to serve God in the church as a church leader.
Okay.
I did 1 year, and then I was supposed to be honest with you, I was the most outstanding student. I was the youngest because I trained when I was 19, but I was the most outstanding student of that year. Posted in the field in Ikoba Parish, 1976, and it was there that we had our first child, and we did 5 years of lay reader. And in 1980, I was called to go to Mukono for an ordination course, which I did. And then I did 3 years in Mukono, graduated. Then in December of 1983, ordained deacon. Then in December, December 83, I was ordained a deacon. Then the following year, I was ordained a priest. So, after serving for 1 year and a half, meanwhile, I was studying for as a private candidate for A-level, which I did and passed. And on the strength of that, I was invited to Mukono to do a Bachelor of Divinity, 1985, July. And then I did 3 years, 1988, finished, came to Hoima. I was made education officer. After education officer, I was made planning officer. After planning officer, I was the pioneer principal of Nile Vocational Institute, Hoima Center, which is called Bishop Mukasa Center. I did there 6 years. And then I went to the States for further studies. And while I was there, I was I was chosen to be the bishop of this diocese.
Interesting.
And 2002, August 4th, I was consecrated bishop. And so the story started.
Yeah.
And I did this for 14 years. I did this for 14 years.
Okay.
And because I had achieved most of the things I wanted to do, I voluntarily decided to retire. Because at that time I was 60, and I was supposed to be bishop until 65.
65, yes.
Without being forced, without failing, I said, this is my time to retire now.
Okay. So maybe before we go for a short break, I want to rewind a little bit back, because you did not tell us how you got saved. As a young person, did you engage yourself in earthly things like?
At 16, I was, besides the letter writing and being cheeky at school with girls and stealing mukubi. What is mukubi in English? Sauce. and ripes. Yenju. I had not, but I was in running for girls and things like that. At the age of 16, you see, you have started, and so during that time, there was a lot of revival and preaching going on. There was a lot of preaching going on in my area, and the preachers made it in such a way that we thought Jesus was coming the next day. Yeah, and there were saved people in the village. So one day, because I feared to be found on the wrong side, I went to the neighbor called Kyamanywa. He's reawakened. He's there now. At around 4, I went there and said, due to the sermons I'm hearing and what the Bible is saying about the return of Jesus Christ, I have surrendered my life to Jesus Christ. And these brethren welcomed me and they were happy, and we sang Kutendereza. And on that day, that's when I committed my life. Nobody preached to me in the congregation, but the atmosphere that had been created had impacted me in such a way that I had to surrender my life to Jesus Christ. And my mother had given me an old Bible, which she encouraged me to keep reading. And in that Bible, I had read Matthew chapter 24, where the goats and the sheep will be separated. And I wanted to be the sheep and not the goat. And then there is another verse which says, like lightning happens in the east and it is seen in the west. That's how swift Jesus will come. So I said, no, these things I don't have to delay. So that's how I surrendered my life to Jesus Christ.
Thank you so much. That is really interesting.
Yeah.
We are still with Bishop Nathan, retired Bishop Nathan, actually the 4th Bishop
of the diocese.
Of the diocese, yes. We shall go for a short break, but when we come back, he'll be telling us, after becoming a bishop, what next, what happens. Because he's well known for transforming the diocese, that's what we shall be diving in. Transformed Lives comes back. Welcome back to Transformed Lives program here at Church of Uganda Family TV. It has been an interesting discussion when we were off talking to Bishop Nathan. Basically, when we were coming to his residence, we were following him, and everyone was waving. Someone fetching water first stops, then waves at the bishop. Bishop, people call you a transformer. What basically did you do to attract this much attention for people to like you so much?
Some of these things sometimes are God's favor. I believe my ministry had God's favor, and that is what I credit for whatever ministry that we did in the 14 years of Episcopal ministry. Now, when I became bishop, the diocese was not in very good shape in terms of financial and human resource and the level of education of the priests, their accommodation, their remuneration, the entire life of ministers. So here I was, and I was relatively young. I was 46 when I became bishop. I was among the youngest bishops at that time. And I was dynamic. I was dynamic. And I thought I wanted to make some impact. And I made a strategic plan, where I named whatever I wanted to do in terms of deepening the faith in the church, not only for the clergy, but also for the Christians. Deepening the faith, developing the diocese in terms of material things and income and self-reliance, and also improving the leadership by further studies for the priests, and also doing things that will improve on their housing situation and transport situation. So when I was chosen to be the next bishop, I was still in the US. Immediately, because I knew I had been a lay reader, I had been a parish priest, I had been an education officer. I knew that we needed to do something to deepen the faith among our people. So when I was chosen, they told me that you have been chosen to be the next bishop. So immediately I sat down and wrote Catechism Empiaka. That is what I called it, the new catechism. Because we did not have a catechism in my diocese at that time. So I wrote what I called Catechism Empiaka. I wrote it in Bunyoro. And in that catechism, which you may want to get a copy from the diocese, in that catechism, I followed the main structure of all catechisms, but improving on them to make it fit the local context. And that catechism, I told my friends, this is what I want to begin with. And I told my friends I want it printed, so that by the time I begin to do confirmations, it is already in print.
Yeah.
So before I even was consecrated, the catechism was already in print. And so when I started, I did my first confirmation in September. On the day of consecration, I told my people that they begin training the catechumens seriously. And I told them I will examine them myself when I start coming there. So there is no this game of playing, just training them for 1 week and then stop. So that was taken seriously. Secondly, together with that, I told them that for every confirmant that I will confirm, I will need a tree. Specifically, a pine tree, because I had read about pine tree. It was quick yielding and easy to maintain. So I said, I want the Bible in one hand, then the tree in another. So when I became bishop, whenever I visited a parish, before even drinking tea, I put on my gumboots. I asked the priest, how many candles do you have? He said 15 or 20 or 100. If it is 100, I want to see 100 pine trees, seedlings planted.
Wow.
And should any tree miss, then one of the candidates will not be confirmed. And I was serious. In the beginning, they thought I was joking.
And doesn't it look challenging for them in the beginning?
Yeah, it was.
Why would we do this?
Exactly. Yeah, but I had explained. But when you explain things, people think that you are just saying for formality. But it was not like that with me. It was not for formality. So what I did, the first year I was a little bit lenient because I knew it was something new. And you can't
force it.
Yeah, you can't switch like people like
a switch.
Yeah. So I was more lenient. But the beginning, the following year, I was very serious. So they took it seriously.
Okay.
And so the children had to memorize, and I had to ask them questions to discover if they have understood, not only memorizing. So that one was targeted to deepen the faith, so that people I confirm, at least to my satisfaction, I know that I have done my best to ensure that the faith is implanted. Then the trees were for the economic growth.
Economic development,
Yeah?
yes.
And wherever you go in this diocese, you'll find so many pine trees in the churches.
Okay.
And I don't know if when you talk to the bishop, you ask him, he will tell you that house, that new house, was roofed by trees which we planted.
Wow.
Which we planted. And I don't know how much timber went on that house, but it was quite much. And that is what I meant when we planted the trees.
Yeah.
The vicarage here in Dohaga, it was roofed by that timber. So that is two. Those are two. Catechism
And
trees. Then going to training the clergy. I trained the clergy. I encouraged some to go for certificate, others for diplomas, others for degrees. And that improved the performance and their outlook and their world view. And then we improved on the housing, we improved on the salaries. And for your information, when I took over, the diocese was indebted. We were in debt for maybe some clergy were not paid for 15 years or 5 years, depending. And some had even given up. But by the time I left office, there was no single clergy who was demanding any pay.
That's a testimony.
And my predecessor had left a legacy of paying the provincial quota on time. I continued that. And up to now, we don't owe any money to the province. And then, by the time I retired, in the coffers of the diocese, I left cash, 800 million shillings, cash. for the church to
start on and use.
start on. Yes.
Wow.
That is when I retired. The money, the Mpeke money in the coffers, 800 million was there. So I retired. I decided to retire because I knew that what I wanted to do, I had fulfilled. The other thing which took place was the schools were dilapidated. We had no health center. The health center had collapsed. And so we started with the schools on the hill, on Duhaga Hill. We did Duhaga Boys. Every classroom was rehabilitated. The staff quarters were rehabilitated. The school main hall was rehabilitated. And the school looked as good as new. Even if you went there today, you will see it. Duhaga Girls, we did the same. So those are the schools on the hill. And then we also rehabilitated the health center.
Yes.
It had collapsed. That is another thing which I also started when I was still in the States. I told my friends that one of my priorities is to renovate the health center. They gave us money. We renovated it. It is there for you to see if you want. It is operational now. And it is health center 4. But because of some logistics, the president had allowed us to have a doctor, and it becomes a hospital. And soon, I think, sooner or later it will become. So it is there. And we also started another health center in Muitanzige. We have another health center in Kanyawawa, in Kibale district. We also have another health center in Kiriabutuzi. Now, when you do all those things, people tend to think and know that you are what? You are caring about their lives. So that one was done. And then staff quarters. I renovated the house of the planning officer. We acquired another house for the diocesan secretary. All those things. But as I said when I started, there are many things that happened. By the way, I'm forgetting one very important thing, is the evangelization.
Okay.
Every sermon I preached, I had to make an altar call. And people came to Christ. And those who came to Christ, many of them are now clergymen. Some of them are lay readers. And even Christians came to Christ. There is no single time when I preached and did not make an altar call. Because I knew it is because of Jesus that I was who I was, or even now who I am. And so, preaching the gospel, catechism, training the clergy, rehabilitating the schools, hospitals, and things. But as I said in the beginning, God's favor.
Yeah.
Many people can do those things and then they are not even liked. Some of the people who are hated and even chased away, some of those things they do. But because of God's favor, that's what happened.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, having done all this, you've done a lot for the diocese. Why? Why did you choose to retire at a relatively young age? Because you left 5 years.
Yeah, now, we are human beings. You reach a point of burnout. And what encouraged me was, I knew among the clergy that I was working with, I knew there are young people younger than me who can carry on
their legacy.
Because I did not do these things alone.
Okay.
I was a team leader, and as you said in the beginning, she's your team leader.
Yes.
I knew they are team players. Therefore, I reached a point where I said we need new blood, we need new ideas, because I'm now remembering the other thing which I should have mentioned, the renovation of the cathedral.
Okay.
That thing pleased the people. Many people liked me for that thing. We did it on record time. We started on it in February. By August it was complete. And it took a lot of money. At that time it took about 1.2 billion. At that time, this is 2012, I think. No, 2008. It It was a lot of money.
Just renovating.
But we collected that money on time, and we renovated the cathedral in time, and the president came to reopen it, and the archbishop came to. So I thought it is better to step down now, because what I wanted to do had been achieved, and I was led by the objectives of the diocese. There are three at that time. Spiritual development, leadership development, infrastructure development. Now, when you analyze what I did, each of those things fall into one of these: spiritual development, leadership development, and infrastructure development. So I said, what is there for me to do now? I said, I don't have any new idea. Let me step down. The people to carry on are here. And sure enough, we got Bishop Sam. He has done things in continuity, but also in a new way. In a new way. For example, I want to tell you, at one time, I never thought of building the bishop's residence. Never. Even if you told me, I would have refused. But you look at it.
Yeah, it's very...
That house, he has built it with his people and with us all in 2 years. And it is magnificent. It is one of the best houses, bishop's residences in this country.
Yeah.
I don't want to say more than that, but I believe it is one of the best in 2 years. Now, you see, if I had continued, this was 2016, and I had 5 years, I would have retired in 2001. We would have missed that house. But because I retired, and he had someone took over, he had another idea, and now the diocese is much better than when I left.
Yeah.
So for me, I knew that my calling had stopped. My ideas, what I wanted, I had implemented. So it was time for someone else to take over.
How do people take this? Wasn't it a sad moment?
It was tragic. And I did it cleverly. Because if I had warned them, the synod would not have accepted. Now, how did I do it? My last synod, I knew it was my last synod, but the people did not know. So we convened, we had Holy Communion, we had the report, the program, and I read my bishop's church in the evening because I wanted them to sleep with it so that tomorrow we go in houses and discuss. And we did the plenary and finished everything. And in my closing remarks, because in the closing remarks, after closing remarks, no discussion. Yeah. So I announced to them, I said, now the synod is over, I want to send you home. But before you go, I read my statement.
Wow.
People cried. They cried, they said, why? Why are you going? Where are you going? We still need you. I said, God has spoken to my heart. And I believe it is God who is directing me to do this. And reluctantly they accepted, because you can't refuse without the synod to discuss. Yeah. The synod is closing. So
that's very wise.
Yeah, I knew they wouldn't accept. But I knew it hurt people. It hurt them. But you see, when you are bringing up a child, and when there is need to correct them, to pinch them, you pinch them so that what will come out will be for their good. And now everybody says, no, it was a good thing that you retired, to give us time to do other things. Yeah, it hurt me also, but I had to do it because I loved my church. However, when I retired, I never went completely. I offered to teach in our Bishop Ruhindi Theological College, which is the other project which I never mentioned. The list is very long. Very long. That Bishop Ruhindi, when I was still around, because I wanted to promote clergy education, we introduced diploma courses there, certificate courses there, so that we can produce more clergymen for ourselves. But we followed the syllabus for Namugongo certificate, because sending students to Namugongo was costly, but training them here was cheaper. And so I said, every Thursday during my retirement time, I will go to Bishop Ruhindi to teach without pay. I said, don't pay me anything. I want to return to the church what I got, because the church is the one which made me who I am. So every week on Thursday, between 8 and 12 noon, I'm in Bishop Ruhindi lecturing, freely without payment. So I am involved even if I am retired. I've been doing this for 7 years now. Every week I go, except when they are on holiday. I gave them only one day because other times I want to do my own things. And also in my retirement, I'm available for my bishop to either delegate me or whenever he has some assignment for me to do. Sometimes he sends me out for confirmation when he's not well, or when he's engaged in other things, I go do confirmations. Sometimes he asks me to lead retreats for ordinance, and I do that and then preach in the cathedral. And so our relationship has been one of the healthiest that I have seen in our church.
No.
And I'm proud of him.
That's really interesting. In case you're just joining us, I'm here with retired but not tired Bishop Nathan from Bunyoro Kitara Diocese, the 4th bishop, retired but not tired. Bishop,
Yes.
now you're retired. How is the personal life in retirement? You've talked about teaching. Yes, that could be part of service.
Yes.
But now your life in retirement, how do you find it?
Life in retirement is good. I can describe it as good if and when you prepare for it. If you don't prepare, and I want to tell whoever is viewing that if you are not prepared, retirement can be a challenge. And before we retired, my wife and I did a lot of homework. Now this place you see here, we started preparing it in 2004.
Wow.
2004. We had acquired it before I became bishop, but 2004 we started preparing it for our retirement. Some of the trees we have already harvested. We planted them here. Those stumps you see there,
Yes.
were trees which I planted.
Well,
But last year we harvested and got money, and we have so many more there. Those trees you see, these mangoes you see, this place was not developed. We just bought a farmland, and so you have to prepare yourself for retirement. And so between 2004 and 2016, we were preparing this place. We were preparing cash flow. We need cash flow in retirement because the electricity, the water, the TV need money. So what we did, bought a few cows. They are behind there outside the perimeter wall. We put a piggery. It is there up to now. If you go behind this house, there is a poultry house for chickens. It is stored. Some chickens are down, others are up. We put in place solar so that when electricity goes,
you're still on.
Exactly, we put inverter. We have solar water heater, so that when we grow old and we can't boil the water on the fireplace, the water is heating itself. Now this sunshine is heating my water, which I will bathe in the evening. So you have to put those in place before you come out, because you will need them. You can see these 2 tanks down here. All the water that comes from here we harvest there, and you have to put in place things like a pump to pump that water up, because you can't have servants to bring you water every time. And the animals, we have 2 submersible pumps for here, and another submersible pump for the animals, because the animals can drink any water but not for home consumption. So we had to do that concurrently while serving. I always tell my ministers that don't kill God's work at the expense of your own private life. And don't neglect your private life at the expense of God's work. The two must be held together. And I'm a witness to that. Because as you can see, I can't fail to get something, money. I can't fail to get money.
Yes.
So, for example, if I wanted money now, I can even simply call here. I have a goat which I want to sell. You come for it, and the butchers in town will come.
Yeah.
And I get money. Are you hearing cows?
Yeah.
Those are mine.
Wow.
So you have to ensure that when you are in retirement, you don't embarrass the name of God. You don't shame the name of God. Clothing badly. You don't look nice. You fail to pay your bills. So it is a good life. You, as a person of life of retirement, it is good and we're enjoying it.
Yeah.
And up to now, I have spoken in the eye, only. These things were possible because of God's favor. But the second thing which I want people to know, even the viewers to know, is when you have a wife who has God's work at heart, who is saved, she will be of help. All these were possible because I had a good partner, my wife.
Mama Peace.
Yes, Mama Peace did a great deal in my ministry. She has done a great deal in our marriage. She has done a great deal in resource management. She's the manager of the pigs. She's the manager of the chickens. Today, a young man had come for about 20 chickens, so that money has entered. And for me, she's the accountant. I don't touch money. I am a spender. I know how to spend, but she's very, how do they call it? Gum-handed. And that is good for us.
For men,
Yeah. So, we are happy and we are here. As you can see this compound, every month we spend 80,000 shillings to cut it. And we have to keep it like this because we are God's servants. We want people when they come here to see a good place, to reflect the goodness of God.
Good, yeah. So maybe as we conclude, how do you deal with the fame? And sometimes fame misleads. Yes, okay, they know you as a good person, a good servant. Somehow, someone could say a lot and be like, okay, there are some, you feel like you're swelling.
Yes.
How do you contain that?
Now,
Yeah.
as I told you, I came from a humble beginning, and I want to finish humble also. As you saw on our way, don't drive past people and you don't wave. Give them a smile. You are not giving them anything, but that will keep people with you. And then, when you meet the clergymen, don't push them away. I'm retired, but they keep coming here. Welcome them, make them comfortable, comfort them when they have problems. Fame is something temporary, because once you mishandle fame, you become infamous. Now, if you want to maintain fame, be humble, and that capacity of being famous, you will sustain it.
Yeah.
So there is nothing I can't do. I go to funerals, I mourn with those who mourn. Like, for example, let me give you an example. Recently, the Muslims had Eid whatever. We have members of the Muslim community near us here. Now, what you do, what my wife and I did, we sent a bunch of bananas to each family so that they know, although I'm a Christian, I'm recognizing them. Now those people will love you.
Yeah.
The borders in town. You greet them, stop and say, hey, mwebale mukora, thank you for what you are doing. That's how to maintain the being famous. That's how you maintain it. You don't swell. On Sunday I go to church, even this local church. I go there. We go there and pray with the people. And I also sit with them. I sit with them. And the local catechist preaches. Okay, they sometimes say we are humbled to preach before a bishop. I said, no, you are preaching God's word. You preach. It is your ministry. I'm not the one who called you. It is God who called you. And when they finish, I shake their hands. I say, thank you very much. And when they come for pastoral work, we prepare a cup of tea. They drink. You get a small envelope. You give them. You keep with people. You keep with people. Other than creating a distance.
Okay. Thank you so much, Bishop. From a houseboy to a retired, to a peacefully retired bishop. It has been Bishop Nathan who has been giving us the story of his life here on Transformed Lives on Church of Uganda Family TV. As you have heard, a very encouraging, very informative story he carries. What an interesting one he has. And of course, we encourage you to always watch such shows every time they are aired. My name has been Luke Alinaitwe, and I've been sitting in for Edwin Mukalazi and Dr. Robert, who are not able to make it today. But of course, there has been a team behind this whole production. There is Collins behind it, and there's also a big lady, Linda Dina, for this Church of Uganda Family TV. For now, we shall say bye-bye. Stay tuned for other programs.